Hello, everyone, and welcome to the second session of the ANZ CFO Summit. We are thrilled to have you. Today's session is going to be the AI agents versus AI assistants versus accounting apps. Which will you use in 2025? In this session, I'm thrilled to be joined by Michael Wood, founder at Translucent, who is going to be breaking down the evolving AI landscape, helping you understand and discover the top tools for forward-thinking finance leaders. My name is Tori McBride. I'm a senior marketing manager at Wheel. If you're not familiar with Wheel by now, we are the leading spend management solution in Australia, helping finance teams of all shapes and sizes to control spending and streamline their back office admin. Now, Wheel is the team behind this event, but we couldn't do it without our wonderful sponsors. So a big thank you to CFO Magazine, Translucent, and Fathom and Trace for making today possible. In case you're only just joining us, a quick reminder of the house rules today. We want this chat session to be interactive, so feel free to ask questions. To do that, you can engage in the chat, which can be found at the bottom of the Zoom panel. But we please ask you to use the Q&A function to ask any questions, which I think Michael will be accepting as we go along. I think that's it for housekeeping. So Michael, without further ado, I will hand over to you. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Tori, thank you. I'll just take a moment or two just to sort of get my screen share and things like that. Oh, Tori, I think do you have to stop sharing to let me get in? Then
Yeah, that should be all ready for you now.
Seconds. Right.
Right.
Cool. So everyone, firstly, thank you very much for your time. And Tori, thank you for the very kind introduction. And yes, we're going to talk about AI agents, AI assistants, and of course, apps that we're used to today. And I'm going to focus particularly on 2025. And this is deliberate. You'll hear me quite often reference 2025 as opposed to the future. And that is because AI is moving so fast. It's much easier to make predictions of this year, much harder to make predictions further out. You can push me and I might do some, but generally I'm going to try and stick to 2025. So a little bit about me. Don't worry, I'll keep this very short. My name's Michael Wood. Previously, I founded Receipt Bank, now known as Dext. So founded that in 2010 and that sold that business and then came back to decide to be an entrepreneur all over again and founded Translucent. And for those that don't know Translucent is all about running multi-entity businesses. So we provide the tool set for running multi-entity Xero, multi-entity QBO. So think of tools like consolidation, intercompany automation, prepayments, deferred revenues, all those things that larger businesses need when running multiple zeros. So that's what we do at Translucent. But anyway, you're here to hear about AI or here to talk about AI. There's lots of quotes out there about AI. You know, there's great quotes from Google, there's great quotes from Sam Altman at OpenAI, but actually this Microsoft one is probably my favorite. So Microsoft have called AI the defining technology of our time. And this is a statement I do agree with. And I will say some negative things about some AI developments and some AI vendors in this presentation. So I find this quite useful to say up front, I am a fan, I am excited, and I do believe it's the defining technology of our time. But I know that quite a lot of you are probably quite mixed on your feelings of AI. Is it something to be scared of, wary of, excited by, super excited by? And so I'm just going to actually ask for a poll to be introduced here. Tori, Sean, if you could just bring up the poll, and that just helps me get a bit of a sense of who I'm speaking to now, of just sort of where everyone is in their AI journey. So if you could just take a moment to sort of answer that. So you might not be using AI at all yet, completely fine, completely reasonable and normal answer. You might be dabbled a little bit. It might have become a habit. So yeah, if everyone could just take a moment to answer, and that will help me refine what I say. Cool. As it's just a single question poll, hopefully that is enough time. Great. So that's the first little bit of interactivity. I also just want to mention for this presentation, if anyone, there will be Q&A at the end, but if anyone wants to ask questions throughout, feel free to do so. Some I might just leave to the end otherwise, but equally, if they're sort of pertinent for the moment we're at, I'll happily jump in and try and answer them there and then. So anyway, Microsoft, talking about AI being the defining technology of our time. The reason they're saying this is they're defining AI as what's called a general purpose technology. And general purpose technologies are those real biggies that come along very rarely and affect everything. So think things like electricity, think things like steam power, think things like the internet. They're things that affect every single part of society, every single industry. And these AI is one of these general purpose technologies. So when Microsoft is saying it's the defining technology of our time, they're saying it's a general purpose technology, and we think it's going to affect everyone. So big statement to begin with. Sorry. Now, I'm going to use a slightly dry couple of terms here, and please bear with me. I know they're super dry, but they're actually really useful when thinking of AI. So the software we're used to date is deterministic software. And again, I know it's a super dry term. But what is deterministic? I have a sort of basic definition I pulled off the internet here. For a given particular input, always producing the same output. And the best thing to think of here is an Excel spreadsheet. If you sum 5 plus 5, it will say 10. And it doesn't matter whether you do that once, twice, 10 times, a million times. Because it's deterministic software, it will always do the same thing. The software doesn't have the capability, it doesn't have the functionality, it doesn't have the latitude to vary. So it's deterministic. And that is basically what all software we've been used to our entire lives is. It is deterministic software. Now, the reason that AI is interesting and the reason that Microsoft and others are so excited about what it will be is because it is probabilistic software. So it involves here, the definition, it involves variation. Now, why would we want probabilistic software? The reason we want probabilistic software is because it means it can do far, far, far more than deterministic software. By increasing this element of variation, the volume of tasks that kind of software can do is not 5x, it's not 10x, it's probably not 100x, it's probably 1000x. It's way, way, way more. So deterministic software is the software we're used to. It does exactly what it says. It does it the same way every single time. But because it was deterministic, it limited the size of the software industry. It limited what software could do. And the reason everyone is excited about AI is because it is probabilistic software. And it means that that software tools are going to be able to do far, far, far more than before. Now, that's fine. Okay, so probabilistic, much bigger, far greater number of use cases than deterministic, but we still got this issue of variation. But what else involves a chance variation? Well, that's what happens when you give a task to a human. Whenever you give a task to a colleague, a manager, a supplier, an employee, you're basically having a probabilistic output. If you give the same task to 5 different employees, they will give you 5 different versions of the output back. And that is where the probabilistic element is interesting and pertinent for this discussion, because what probabilistic software is doing is it is competing with what human labor has historically done. So why do I bring these terms up? Because I know they are super dry. I bring them up because the term AI itself has become so overused, even at this early stage, it's almost impossible to put a useful definition to it or to give you something in this presentation you can take away. Whereas if you think of a solution of is it deterministic or probabilistic, is a much better way of looking at the next generation of tools, and indeed some of the tools we're going to talk about. So, for example, lots and lots of software vendors are now going to say, hey, we've got AI or we do AI. But you probably want to think, do I want deterministic software for this, or do I want probabilistic software? Now, that means that you don't really want AI doing any of the historic tasks that you have done. Do you want probabilistic software replacing your general ledger? No, you don't, because when you ask your general ledger for a P&L, you always want the same P&L. You don't want any kind of variability in it. But probabilistic software is a great thing. You might want something like credit control to chase down those outstanding bills, because that is something historically you'd get a person to do, and you understand there's a variable output. So anyway, so I bring these terms in because I find it, and I know many other people find it, a very, very useful framework, and hopefully it'll make a bit more sense as well as we go on, as we talk about the different types of AI solutions that are out there in 2025. So 4 types of AI and 4 types of probably messaging you're getting from software vendors today. The first is people saying, hey, we've got a software tool and it's powered by AI or driven by AI or AI inside, something like that. The next one is AI agents that are role-based. So these are vendors that are probably saying to you, hey, we've got an AI solution that replaces a whole person. So whether it's an AI bookkeeper, an AI salesperson, that's the AI role-based agents. Then you have the AI assistants. They're the things that have had the most press so far, like ChatGPT, Google Gemini, etc. These sort of multi-purpose AI tools. And then finally, we have AI workflow-based agents. So these are AI agents that work on a very specific tool or task. And I'm going to talk a little bit about all 4 of these and give you some opinions and possibly even some directions on those. Now, I haven't seen any questions or anything come in, so I'm not sure if that's no questions have come in or if we're having a bit of a technical issue getting them to me, but just FYI. So again, everyone, feel free at any time to fire any questions to me. But anyway, let's start by powered by AI. This is a phrase that slightly makes my heart sink. You will see it again and again and again on websites, on emails, on marketing materials. I'm sure we've used it translucent as well. It is something that gets people's attention because AI is such a buzzword. But basically, this is where deterministic versus probabilistic is most useful. The rule of thumb is when something says powered by AI, ignore it. Absolutely ignore it. Unless it's shifting that software from doing a deterministic task that it historically did into a probabilistic task, i.e., it's doing something completely new and it's doing something historically a member of the team would do, and it's doing something that a member of the team, there is a subjective variable output to. Unless it's that kind of change, you can ignore it. So basically, right now, we're all being bombarded by software vendors saying, hey, this is powered by AI and things like that. Generally, not that meaningful. Okay. Next one, AI role-based agents. So I've pulled some screenshots here of some of the vendors who are talking about these role-based agents that they've built. And the way you recognize a role-based agent is they virtually always, as you can see, they give you a photo. They virtually always give it a name. And the key definition of a role-based agent is it claims to replace a whole person role, a job role within your company. So we've got a accounts payable clerk, we've got an SDR, we've got a bookkeeper here, etc. So these are examples of the AI agents that are role-based that are available today. And the first thing is always worth noticing, I always note, is just how good looking they are. AI agents, when they're role-based, it's extraordinary. It's like walking into an ad agency or something. They're all very, very good looking. I've yet to meet an ugly one. But we're not here just purely to judge their looks, their AI created looks, of course. We're here to decide what we think of them as a potential solution. And just like I said, it's worth discounting AI powered as being a decision in your purchasing. In 2025, I think you can completely ignore these types of solutions. So these types of solutions, when AI says it is replacing a complete role, you should ignore, because the technology is not yet there in 2025. I'm not saying it won't get there, but it's not there in 2025. The reason for that is that any human-based role is actually quite a complex compendium of different tasks. And to be quite technical and boring about it, those different tasks are dictated by the communication costs within an organization. That last bit doesn't really matter. The point is, a job role, a human-based role within any organization today is quite a complex, sophisticated collection of tasks. And AI is very good at certain things, but it's not, no one has yet built one of these role-based agents that can successfully do really well all the different tasks within a human role. So the first sort of maybe very sort of easy to use bit of advice I would give you in this presentation is ignore these kind of solutions in 2025. The technology is just not there yet. Okay. Next one, AI assistants. As I mentioned before, AI assistants are the thing that get all the headlines today. So Elon Musk's Grok, Sam Altman's OpenAI, Google's Gemini, Anthropic and Claude. This isn't all of them. This is just sort of a collection of some of them. But these are all out there today. And could someone, Tori or Sean or something, could you let me know the results of the poll?
I have the results here. We had 21% saying they are not using an AI assistant, 38% saying they're dabbling once or twice, 22% saying weekly use, and 19% of you said daily use.
Cool.
I'll pop the results in the chat for reference.
Thank you. So I'm going to split that into 40% have some kind of habit of using these assistants, i.e. using it weekly or daily, and 60% do not yet have what we're going to refer to in this presentation as the AI habit. So these are the AI assistants that are out there. And how do we define an AI assistant? So an AI assistant can do many, many things. They can create images, they can search, do the equivalent of searching the web, they can write things for you, they can book cinema tickets, they could do a bank rec in zero. There's all sorts of things an AI assistant can do. And they are denoted by this extraordinary versatility. Oh, I've gone too quickly there. They absolutely can do accounting and bookkeeping tasks, as I've mentioned. They need training to do it, and that's you showing them how to do it, and they will replicate it. However, for two reasons, they're really not the best tool for doing anything. I would say forget just, something like a bank rec in zero. I would not recommend, again, in 2025, using them for core work tasks. They do not have a strong audit trail, and they've got a very limited ability to edit and undo the work. And I don't mean a minute after it's done. I mean at month end or year end or during an audit or something like that. So what you have is AI assistants out there that could do many, many things, but I wouldn't really recommend them for a work task. Now, if the first bit of advice was to, in 2025, ignore those role-based agents, the second bit of advice I would give is, and I really would exhort everyone on this call to, is to develop the AI assistant habit. So we had 40% are already to some degree in the habit of they're using these weekly or monthly, and 60% they might have done some dabbling, but it hasn't yet become a habit. These things are so powerful and only getting more powerful that they will only assist you in your career. So I really, really would stress and really push each of you to develop the AI assistant habit. Now, you might then ask, well, firstly, which tool? Any of the leading tools is fine. Don't worry about it. They're sort of in a sort of marathon long race, overtaking each other with each twist and turn of the road. Don't worry about which is the best. They're all very, very good, and they will all assist you. They all have mobile apps, they all have desktop apps, they all have web interfaces. You can interact with them by text, or you can interact with them by voice. But it really, really is worth a habit to build. And I talk about the habit rather than a particular workflow or particular task, because it's different for all of us. So for those of you that haven't yet developed the habit, some hints and tips. A great one is, if you've got kids, AI assistants can make you look like the coolest parent, or the coolest aunt or uncle, or the coolest godparent of all time, because you can get it to hand draw a picture of a tiger, and you can print it out and show it to the kids, and they'll think you're an absolutely amazing artist. And you can do this every day of the week and just impress them non-stop. So you can play around in that way and produce things for kids. You can develop the habit by replacing some of your Google searches, or you can get the habit by other tasks you're doing on the web, like trying to buy something, researching something, a holiday or something, trying it for these sort of things. There's all sorts of different sort of on-ramp tasks you can do to develop the habit. But it really, really is worth developing the habit. They are absolutely amazing. And you will, if you develop the habit in a personal way, you will very quickly find work applications that it can help you with, whether it's doing a bit of research, whether it's quickly producing. I use it a lot to produce complex Excel formula. I find it much better than the in-app tools. Yeah, you'll definitely find uses. So really worth developing that habit. So I can see some questions. One was, what tips do I have to develop the habit? So hopefully that's useful, some of the ones I've given. I've also been asked by Tina, what are my thoughts around data security and privacy around using it in the workplace? Again, this is a good reason to be a little wary of what you're using it for in the workplace. It would not be recommended to take your entire client list and upload it into one of these models or other sensitive company data at this stage. So Tina's question is a really, really good one, a really pertinent one. I'm actually a little embarrassed I haven't added a slide about that. So yeah, absolutely, it is something to be wary of. The businesses behind these AI assistants, like Google and Facebook before them, have a voracious appetite for data and what they can do with data. So you do need to be wary about what you're adding. But as I say, that shouldn't let you hold back developing the habit, just in the way that worries about security or privacy haven't held any of us back, or very, very few of us back, in using Google over the past 25 years in the same way for AI systems. So that's where we are there. The next ones talk about AI agents that are workflow based. So here are some examples here, and hopefully some of these are probably quite familiar. Definitely the note-taking ones, I think, are the ones that have had the biggest penetration. Even if you don't use them within your business, obviously you'll have had Zoom meetings, Google Meet meetings where another person's used them. So the difference with an assistant to an AI agent, a workflow-based agent, is let's pick on a tool like Fathom is a note-taking tool. It is only a note-taking tool. You can't suddenly ask it to book plane tickets or to draw a picture of a lion. It is very narrow in what it does, but because of its narrowness, it makes it very, very, very good at that task. It has all the additional functionality you'd want. So it records the call, not only to take the transcript, it will produce action points. It's got all sorts of privacy sharing settings, etc., etc. You can correct it when it's got things wrong. So note-taking is one of the area that AI workflow-based agents has already taken off, and frankly has already sort of won the battle. We're all using them now, or for those of you that aren't, I think I'd say it's a one battle. It'll be very happening. The penetration is happening very quickly. Next one is in writing, whether writing for blog posts, writing emails, Jasper, Writer, Grammarly. This again, just picked sort of some of them. Again, it's a workflow-based agent because it's very narrow in what it can do. So it helps you improve your writing. And then the final one here, Bolt and Cursor, I've called them coding. I wonder if in the future we will call tools like this coding, because what they help you to do is to build things like mini apps, to build prototype apps, to build websites, etc., through voice and text, rather than actually learning to code. But again, very, very narrow tools. They do what they're built to do. So those are AI workflow-based agents. And I've seen a question from Deborah about the integration between workflow-based agents, and I'll talk about that in a moment. It's another great question. And so I can see some of the other questions I'll come to in a second as well. So I'll just define what an AI agent is. So an AI agent is limited to a specific workflow. And the upside, because it's limited to specific workflow, it doesn't need any instruction, it doesn't need any training in how to complete that task. Again, because it's specific, it will give you an excellent audit trail. So if it's a note taker, who was in that meeting, who has accessed the notes, etc., who has made any changes or edits. I've gone into edits there, strong ability to edit and undo work. So AI agents are different from assistants. So where assistants are these wide, super powerful, Swiss Army knife tasks, tools, the AI agent is a much, much narrower tool, but more powerful for a specific task. So a couple of questions here. One's about note-taking AI. How do you juggle the privacy issues with using note-taking AI? So I think I really internally we use Fathom. One of the reasons we adopted Fathom over the others was whether you call it privacy or whether you call it courtesy, it has a feature I really like, which is when you say, oh, I've invited you to this meeting and Fathom's going to be the note taker. About 2 days before the meeting, it emails the counterparty, the other person in that meeting, and says, oh, Michael has turned on a Fathom note taker. One, are you okay with this? Or do you want to say no? And two, if you're okay with it, would you like a copy of the output? And I love that. I saw it as courtesy rather than data security or privacy. But of course, it applies for both. Now, when thinking about this, it sort of does depend on industry. So, I know that doctors today absolutely are not in a position where they can just download Fathom and use it because they're dealing with sensitive medical data. That's obviously a very extreme example. I'm sure there's all sorts of government agencies equally are not in that place. I think I would make the argument that in most businesses, though, when you've got those kind of courtesy features so that both sides of the call have agreed to it, then the sensitivity of the data, one probably can be more relaxed about. But of course, it does depend what industry and how sensitive the data you're dealing with is. The next, integration between these specific workflow-based AI agents. Deborah, this is such a good question. Because the way I see this working out is all of us are going to be employing more and more and more of these agents. And whether one thinks about is the integration of these agents or the coordination of these agents or the orchestration of these agents, of course, you want each agent doing what it's doing, and you don't want them bumping into each other, crisscrossing each other's work. Again, I know it's not particularly innovative of me to draw this parallel, but the best way to think about these agents is thinking of them as your team, as employees. You want them to be working in concert. You want them to be working efficiently. You want them to be working in parallel. You don't want them to be sort of crisscrossing each other's paths. So the very complex answer about integration is some people, like Translucent, are building multiple AI agents all on one platform so that they're built to that they are built to work together. So that's going to be one solution. And then the more complex solution out there is actually people building orchestration platforms of agents, whereby what they perceive the future to look like is more and more agents being out there. And then you employ another level of AI that's an orchestration agent that then sits on top of them and works with those in that way. So an absolutely great question, but in some ways difficult to see which sort of modal will win out. Cool. So I wanted to give an example of AI workflow agent in accounting and finance, just to give you an example of what it's going to be like. So one of the apps we have at Translucent is Intercompany, which is all about automating the intercompany transactions that you have within your business. And one of the tools within that intercompany app is managing the intercompany loan accounts. And so we have a tool that works along this flow. So firstly, you map the intercompany loan accounts. Secondly, it then produces the intercompany matrix. You can see, pulling the data live from zero. So you can see if there's any discrepancies across the intercompany loan accounts. We then show you all the transactions behind the intercompany loan accounts, and they can then be reconciled to understand the nature of the discrepancy. You then can create any balancing journals. You can post the balancing journals back to zero, and the IC loan accounts are balanced. So that is an accounting app, a traditional model of doing it. Now, we've got some automation in each of those stages, but fundamentally, those are the 6 different stages that exist. And if you think about that, that's a really good template for how all apps work today. What they do is they facilitate the task, they frame the task, they make the task, make you more productive when doing the tasks, but basically you are still doing the task. And that's represented by these different stages. Now, if you look at the intercompany agent that we are building and how it does it slightly differently. So again, just to remind you, you've got those 6 stages: mapping it, looking at the matrix, reconciling transactions, creating the balancing journals, posting them, all done. The intercompany agent is radically different. Again, you start off in the same place. You've got to make sure the IC loan accounts are correctly mapped. But once they're correctly mapped, the second stage is the loan accounts are balanced. That's how it's done. That's what's different about an agent versus an app. So all those 6 stages that we saw before, all those 6 stages still exist, but the agent is now doing the work. So the agent is looking at the data in the intercompany matrix and seeing the discrepancies. It's automatically doing the reconciliation. It's automatically identifying any correcting journals that need to be created, and it's then posting them to zero. Now, again, I used the sort of model or the sort of metaphor of an employee. What you want from an agent straight after that is the third thing it does. It notifies you not just that the work is completed and all the loan accounts balance, but it notifies you of the work it's done. Again, exactly as you'd expect a team member to do. You don't just want to say, oh, task's done. You then want the ability to potentially review the work done, if that's what you want to do, and indeed edit the work that's been done. And that is going to be the big thing about these workflow-based agents. They will do the work far faster, far more efficiently, far more cheaply than it's done today. And then they will give you this full audit trail and the ability to edit and undo the work. And that will persist. So whether that's 5 minutes after it's done the work, 5 days after it's done the work, or frankly, 5 years after it's done the work. That's what it will do, so that, if you're being audited sort of down the line, you can still see what's been done and review it then. But hopefully that's a useful sort of guide of just how agents are different than apps. And so finally, a sort of summary and sort of advice, hopefully sort of talk through some of the different areas. Big one, I would say, is to get the AI assistant habit. It really is so valuable. It can be fun as a toy to begin with, and it will help you in work. So really, really would urge everyone to do that. And secondly, to begin to choose the AI workflow agents that will supercharge your team. Frankly, today in March, we are still in March, 25, there aren't many in finance and accounting. By the second half of this year, there will be a lot. So it'll be an interesting task through this year to decide the ones that you want and which tasks either you're struggling to recruit for, or you want to help someone shape their role by getting rid of these tasks, or supercharge or leverage the existing team. There's all sorts of ways these will be used, but those would be the two big bits of advice. And I know a couple of members of my team are on this call, and they can echo, this is something I bang the drum for internally non-stop. I bang the drum that everyone should have the AI assistant habit. And I talk about everyone should have, a number of employees. Everyone should be a manager, because they should be working out the AI agents that leverage their time and make them more efficient. And that's it from me, but there's some more questions, so I'll quickly take those. And if anyone else has got more questions, I'm happy to take the time to answer them. Is there an API equivalent for AI agents? I must admit, I'm not quite sure what that question means. So AI agents are very dependent on the existing APIs, both to read and write. So there's not some sort of special different APIs today for agents. But what agents will mean is there'll be more pressure on platforms like Xero, on banks, and other sort of core platforms in our lives. There'll be more pressure on their APIs to become more expansive, because agents will be limited by the quality of APIs. Can you get a list of AI workflow agents? Absolutely happy to. We'll do a follow-up to this presentation, and we'll make sure we include the slide deck in that. And again, if anyone wants to get in touch, happy to talk about some other things separately. Can I elaborate more on translucent and consolidation? If I may, could you, rather than sort of take up everyone's time, because I don't want sort of this to become a sort of sales pitch about translucent, as lovely as that would be. If you could ping us separately, and absolutely happy to answer the questions and what we do around consolidation. Obviously, we're incredibly proud of it and excited about what we're building, but I just don't want to take up everyone's time. I've had a question. I've had a question about another solution that's out there. I prefer not to comment about other individual companies. Again, it just feels a little impolite or impolitic not to talk about that. It's actually not a competitor of ours, but it's another app out there, and I know the founders and things like that. So again, please do feel free to reach out to me personally. Happy to answer any questions. I'm on LinkedIn and things like that, so happy to answer that. Any tips or advice how to start develop AI assistant habit in accounting work? Actually, working with spreadsheets is a great place to start. They are super powerful in what they can do, whether it's creating, you can ask it to sort of quickly produce a model of something, or you can ask it to produce very, very complex formulas. So that's a great place to start. Otherwise, as a research tool, it can be really good. Now, of course, if you've been in your role for years, you may not have much need of a research tool. But whether it's suddenly encountering a foreign regulation or, some other sort of edge case in your role, it can be really good for those kind of things. And Tori, I can see you've popped up. Have I got to stop talking?
Feel free to finish the question. I'm just timekeeping for the session, so we do have a couple more minutes to answer any
Well, I
burning
think that
questions.
I think that was I think that was it. So yeah, all good. Thank you.
Brilliant. Thank you so much, Michael. And thank you to everyone for tuning in at home. I think there'll be a lot more dabblers in the audience after that session. Be willing to try out some of those tools you mentioned. So thank you so much. Just as a reminder, we do have our next session at 11 a.m. Sydney time. We're going to be joined by Wheel's very own Chloe Dung, our finance director, who will be breaking down the role of finance in shaping company culture. So you won't want to miss it. Thanks again, everyone, and we will see you over there in a few minutes. Thanks, Michael.
Thanks everyone for your time. Thank you. Bye.